Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Long-Term Care Educator webinar series. This is our first webinar for this quarter. Today's topic is a new initiative which centralizes virtual training to support long-term care workforce capacity. My name is Stacey Guy and I am with the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care. Next slide, please. Although we are meeting virtually, we acknowledge that Baycrest operates on the traditional territories of many Indigenous nations, which have cared for the land for thousands of years, including the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat peoples. And we recognize the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This land remains home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, and is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land today. You may live and work in different territories, so we encourage you to reflect on the land on which you are located and to consider your relationship to the land and to the people who are the traditional keepers of the land. I will continue to work on my allyship and to continue to learn more about the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Next slide, please. I'd like to take a chance now to introduce our speakers for today. So we're really excited to be presenting this topic. I would like to introduce Matthew Goulbourne and Lisa Francis, who are knowledge translators with the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care. And Jenna Mohammed is a knowledge broker with CABI, the Centre for Aging and Brain Health Innovation at Baycrest. So just before we jump into the presentation, a few housekeeping items for those of you who are new to GoToWebinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Ontario CLRI website within a week and a half. And if you would like to make any comments or have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the chat feature or the questions section feature in the panel that you see popping out on your screen. Over to you, Matthew.
Thank you, Stacey. And we can just go to the next slide. Before we go into the discussion, I'm just going to give a bit of overview of our learning objectives. So first, we're just going to really introduce what LIPHA is, the rationale behind serious educational games as a means to enhance long-term care homes' current training and orientation programs, and really how does LIPHA benefit the homes? So how does LIPHA actually improve the team's competencies? That means their knowledge, their skills, and their attitudes. And thirdly, we're just going to explore also the support that we'll be providing. So this is an initiative for long-term care homes across Ontario. So the LIPHA team, myself, Lisa, and Jenna, we do provide that implementation support for homes that are interested to apply it. So we can just go to the next slide to look at the agenda. And we did the introductions already. I'm just going to give an overview of what is LIPHA, what is serious educational games, why it's important, the theory behind it. We're going to also look at some of the benefits of LIPHA and really just how do we implement LIPHA in your long-term care home. After this presentation, hopefully you will find this is something that is beneficial. And then also we're going to be talking about the LIPHA Champion Circle. So that's our form of community of practice to help support you and those homes that have been onboarded and what that looks like. And then we'll just end off with a question period. So if you have any questions, put that in the chat. So I'll just like to introduce you to the Accelerated for Learning Interprofessionally in Healthcare app. So this is an innovative and an interactive and pretty much an effective way to rapidly train and onboard your new long-term care team members. And LIPHA really helps accelerate the training and orientation process with a powerful virtual training solution to pretty much improve the proficiency. Specifically for this year, we're targeting personal support workers and nursing hires in your long-term care home. So this powerful virtual training solution, it combines leading practices in simulation and game-based learning to improve the care outcomes and experience for residents, families, and the team as a whole. So through this app, we're really looking to enhance team member performance. And this is just helping them learn how to do observation skills effectively, safety and risk assessments, what does personalization of care approach look like, how to choose the right care intervention. So these are some of the steps that are included. And this is all done through real world case scenarios in a safe online environment. And really the ultimate purpose of LIPHA is to improve the care and support that your team will provide to vulnerable residents living with cognitive abilities. And that could be due to dementia, stroke, or even developmental disabilities. And before I just move on, I just want to give you a history of LIPHA itself and just a little bit of context, what this came out of. So a couple years back, LIPHA, the Ontario CLRI at Baycrest, George Brown, and Ryerson, they came together through a grant from eCampus Ontario, just to look at a way like how do we engage students to teach them in an online environment. So this has been used, LIPHA has been used for a couple years now in the Ontario CLRI at Baycrest internship. And for this current year, 2021 to 22, the Ministry of College and Universities and the Ministry of Long-Term Care, they've funded this program to really scale LIPHA. And what we're doing is we're trying to scale it across all long-term care homes in Ontario and the schools. And this is a collaborative initiative between ourselves at the Ontario CLRI, CABI, so that's the Center for Aging, Brain Health and Innovation, and the Kunin Lunin Center for Applied Research and Evaluation, which is also housed out of Baycrest. And all of this is powered by Launch 57 as they are developers. So first, we're just going to look at why game-based learning. And as you can see from this chart, active learning at the top is the best type of learning for any learner, as it gives them an opportunity for learners to explore and experiment, because we do learn from better by doing. And that's something we always experience, even with little children, young children, they learn a lot and so quickly because they're able to learn by trial and experiment. And even just thinking about our current mode of training, which is a lot more passive, let's say through our learning management system, there is a lot of that reading component in the modules, hearing, viewing images, but there are some active learning components like participation. And this is something that is done in the LMS, and also what happens in the LMS, as everyone knows, is that you do complete one module, and before you can go on to the next one, you must complete the prerequisite. And basically, this is the same thing that's done in a game, but this serious educational game has an added element. So you basically start off with that one quest before you go on to the other, and through these case-based scenarios, PSWs and nurses will learn in a safe virtual environment to learn how to apply their clinical skills. So we feel that's a great way to add that higher level of engagement for team members. And then here is just some of the science backed behind serious educational games. So it is backed by, there's three key elements. So the neuroscience, emotional design, and the narrative. And through the neuroscience, we see that it does deactivate our tendency to drift mentally. That's how serious educational games work. And it does improve that focus. And also that active learning rewards centers of the brain. So that dopamine increases the reward signal, so that leads to greater memory formation. And when we look at the emotional design, we're really looking at affect learning. So how do we increase that efficacy through empathy? And this is really done through the adoptions of value, beliefs, and attitudes through self-evaluation, role play, and case studies. And these are all elements that are embedded in the game itself. And our educators, sorry, you can just go back, Lisa. Our educators really designed this course and the cases to make sure we're emphasizing that relational care. And then just looking at that narrative piece, we're just talking about, as we know, that stories are one of the most powerful learning tools, and it really creates that structure for the knowledge and also increase that learning efficacy again. And that meta narrative, so what we did in this game, as you'll see in the demo that we're going to show later on, is that we use the ancient civilization in Carthage using Queen Dido just to create this immersive learning environment to kind of structure our learning to provide that greater meaning. And here, this is just like a high level 30,000 foot view of the different components of the game mechanics. And as you can see, there's different elements. So we have the in-game purchases here, and that's really can be used, let's say, for team consults. So I'll be talking about how we really focus on interprofessional care and collaboration. So you can, let's say, during one of the cases, you can get insight from a different member of the care team. As you can see here on the left, there's the action point starvation. So there is scarce resources. So the same way that we have prerequisites, you do have to have that economy. So whether that's the gold or the experience points, you have to increase those through successfully getting through the cases. That increases your resources so you can move on to those next case scenarios. So that will help out with that game mechanics. And then just going to look at some of the theory-based design. Lisa, you can go on to the next one, please. So we're really based in that constructivist learning. This is really important as a learning theory. It just helps students better learn, and it's really based on the idea that people actively construct or make their own knowledge, and we're just really trying to get that experience to reflect that real life. And as I was discussing about the in-game purchases, team consults, we're really trying to focus on that collaboration and communication because we do think that's key. So in the game, the PSWs and nurses will have the opportunity to virtually consult with other members of the care team to help them get through the case. And all our content and activities in Alpha are evidence informed. So as you can see here, these are just some of the different lists of theories that we did follow in development of this game. And then these are just the different levels of educational games. So maybe I'll just step back and give you a bit of definition. So gamification, we see that a lot everywhere. So the most basic definition is the use of game elements, and that could be in non-game settings. And then we have game-based learning. So gaming that is defined with learning objectives and outcomes. And then there's serious educational games. And that is where the game itself is a learning platform, and hence why Alpha is considered a serious educational game. And when we talk about games, there are different levels of gamification and game elements, and we really simplify them to 4 different tiers. And the first one here is just the achievements, challenges, like points and badges. So if you go to Shoppers Drug Mart, you have your Shoppers Drug Mart points. If you have a Fitbit like myself, the other day I got a badge for Mount Everest. I don't know how that would feel to go all the way to Mount Everest, but for the second, it felt pretty good. So that's just the basic level of gamification, level 1. And then we look at, let's say, level 2, rewards and how it unlocks. So that goes back to the prerequisites and what that looks like. And level 3 is more about that in-game resources and currencies that you use as engagement loops. And then the 4th, as we talked about, is the actual story and the theme, that meta-narrative that helps tie it all together, which really makes it that serious educational game. And Alpha uses these game structures and mechanics to achieve our outcomes for serious content. And our primary goal is to increase the team competency, relational care, and safety within long-term care homes that are using Alpha. You can go on to the next slide. So because we're talking a lot about games, I was just curious from everyone that's joining us today, what your level of exposure is. So I don't know if we have any Mario Kart fans, Minecraft, or Fortnite. Do you know these games maybe from your son's daughter, cousins? So maybe we can just put this in the chat. And just remember, like games like Candy Crush, Tetris, even puzzle games on your phone, those are all considered games that a lot of people are playing. So if you can just put that in the chat and we can see what kind of group we have. I don't know, Lisa or Jen, do we have anything in the chat? We have Mario Kart, Scrabble. Well, while we continue, you can just put that in. We can just go to the next slide. So you might not be familiar with some of these games like Fortnite, Call of Duty. You might be more familiar with, let's say, Solitaire or Minesweeper. But as you can see here from this graph, that we've all had some type of exposure to games. So that's on the mobile, so male, female, and even from these different age groups. So it may seem daunting, let's say, to have an educational game. Why are we using a game to learn? But we do feel like this is a great engagement tool. So we're going to look at a demo right now, and then we'll just talk further about what Alpha is and then the supports that we will provide. Are you looking for new ways to onboard team members more quickly and more effectively? Accelerate your training and orientation process with a powerful virtual training solution to improve the proficiency of new personal support worker and nursing hires in your long-term care home. Introducing the Learning Interprofessionally Healthcare Accelerator, an innovative, interactive, and effective way to rapidly train long-term care team members. This powerful virtual training solution combines leading practices in simulation and game-based learning to improve care outcomes and experiences for residents, families, and teams. Team member performance and observation, safety and risk assessment, personalization of care approach, care interventions, and team communication are enhanced by solving real-world case scenarios in a safe environment with feedback. The purpose of LIPHA is to improve the care and support that your team will provide to vulnerable residents living with varied cognitive abilities due to health conditions such as dementia, stroke, and developmental disabilities. What can LIPHA do for your long-term care home? It can meet various needs, such as onboarding new hires and upskilling recently recruited team members. The benefits of using LIPHA are many. LIPHA's case-based simulation and Ontario's CLRI curated resources are all evidence-informed. Your team members will have access to training anywhere and anytime, and it can run on mobile, tablet, or desktop. Key to retaining your team members is LIPHA's deep game design with instant, rich feedback that will reward your team and keep them wanting to return to LIPHA. Your long-term care home will receive unlimited access for PSWs and nurses. LIPHA plays the role of a virtual coach for every team member to help them focus on best practices, safety, and teamwork. And the content is designed using plain language with considerations for learners with English as their second language. In addition, LIPHA can provide reporting to stakeholders at multiple levels, where individual team members can always know their progress in the app, allowing your educator to monitor progress and support individuals and team where needed, and allowing your organization to analyze how your teams are doing. This modernized and digital training approach will significantly reduce duplication of resources by long-term care homes, replacing static content and equipping the workforce prospectively to strengthen the long-term care sector and optimize quality of care and living for Ontario seniors during COVID-19 and beyond. Let's take a look at the immersive learning environment that results in longer engagement and improved knowledge retention and application. Once a member of your team enters a themed learning environment, they will be immersed into a compelling narrative to explore this world while working through simulation and case-based scenarios. The storyline, accompanying visuals, and underlying game mechanics set the foundation for a strong educational game. The core of the game economy are resources, including everything from currencies and badges to quests and power-ups. These can be configured as buyable items with an in-game store to allow learners to use earned currencies to purchase upgrades. Resources can be used to unlock new content or access hints that may be available. For example, in the case of determining the best care path for a resident, a team member can use their currency to purchase various tests to assist with their decisions. Get started with LIPHA today. Improve the relational care and safety within your home and enhance the performance and competency of your long-term care team. LIPHA. Accelerate your orientation and training. Empower your team.
Thank you. So as you can see through Alpha, each learner experiences a journey of self-development in conjunction with a sense of purpose and a sense of community through its game-based design and engagement loops. Can you advance to the next slide? Thanks. So one thing that I wanted to note was that the development of ALPHA also occurred with input from various stakeholders. We conducted weekly case jams with educators, managers, consultants, faculty members, all with expertise in long-term care to inform clinical fidelity of the scenarios. We also conducted focus groups with CABI's LEAP platform, which is a community of older adults and caregivers who test and provide feedback on the design and usability of innovative solutions. And although older adults are not the target user of ALPHA, they are the ultimate beneficiary. So we wanted to gather their feedback on the accuracy and relevance of the scenarios, whether the scenarios reflected real life, and whether the scenarios resonated well with them. So we tried to ensure that development of ALPHA did not occur in silos, that we connected with various stakeholders for their perspectives. Next slide, thank you. So what are the benefits? So I wanted to chat in more detail about some of the benefits of ALPHA. Firstly, as Matthew mentioned, ALPHA can help onboard new hires and upskill recently recruited team members through its virtual training, which includes case-based scenarios and practice opportunities. And these case-based scenarios are evidence-informed and designed by CLRI educators with the latest practice recommendations. ALPHA can also provide reporting to stakeholders at multiple levels, including for learners, for educators, and for managers, which can allow you as a learner to see how you're performing and as a manager to also see how your team is performing. ALPHA is also highly engaging through its deep game design that provides rich instant feedback that rewards learners and keeps them wanting to return to the modules. And this results in more immersive learning and improved retention. And ALPHA plays a role of a virtual coach for every team member. So it acts as a virtual preceptor, and it helps guide them to focus on best practices, safety, and teamwork. And lastly, this is a future goal, but ALPHA has the potential to work with the LMS systems that long-term care homes use at the moment. Do you mind advancing to the next slide? So what are the other benefits? So using a bit of a broader lens, we can see other benefits that ALPHA might be able to offer. For example, the content is tailored to long-term care and can be updated to reflect current demands or emerging needs, for example, related to the COVID-19 pandemic. It can support and enhance a skilled workforce of PSWs and nurses, which makes it a leading edge training solution. It leverages innovative technology to augment the learning experiences of long-term care PSWs and nurses, and hopefully one day can be used to modernize how mandatory education is delivered. And lastly, it can encourage innovation and the use of new technologies in long-term care, which is great for continuously improving how we deliver care for our residents and older adults. So do you mind jumping to the next slide? So we're going to jump into our first polling question. Stacey, do you mind helping with that? Thank you. So I'll read the question aloud. So after sharing the benefits that I just discussed, what do you think is the most significant benefit of using ALPHA in your long-term care home? So the first option is that it offers flexible, accessible learning 24/7 on any device. It can offer more immersive learning and improve retention through its game-based design. It offers a dashboard for performance analytics. It has a future potential to be integrated with LMS, and if there's anything that we missed, feel free to write that in the chat. And we'll just give it another couple of seconds for everyone to vote. Interesting. So the flexible learning and the immersive learning and future potential to be integrated with LMS systems. Great. Thank you so much for your input, everyone. All right, so let's advance to the next slide. So this slide provides an overview of the topics that are covered in ALPHA. For example, oral care, dressing, pain, families in distress, bathing and skincare. You'll notice that there is an NS next to a few topics. NS refers to topics that are covered only by nurses and not PSWs. In terms of the time it takes to complete all of the modules, it takes 4 days for PSWs and 4.5 days for nurses, just because of the additional content. And maybe we can leave this slide for a couple of seconds so everyone can digest the topics. Okay, Lisa, you can advance. Thank you so much. So how are we engaging long-term care homes across Ontario to use LIPHA? So this slide provides a visual overview of our plan for disseminating LIPHA across Ontario. So it starts with our recruitment campaign, which includes different materials. So posters, flyers, for example, and we are disseminating them across various channels. So this could be via newsletters, via webinars, such as something like this. And our call to action is to fill out our intake form where you can express interest in potentially becoming an LIPHA user. And so once you fill out this form, it triggers one of us knowledge brokers, myself, Matthew, and Lisa, to reach out to you to schedule an introductory meeting to understand your organization, your learning needs, and how LIPHA may be able to add value. And then to our onboarding and training. So this is for users that are interested in becoming interested in using LIPHA in the long-term care home. We have them sign an agreement, and we provide training and materials to help orient themselves and their staff to become LIPHA users. And then we identify local champions. So these are individuals within each long-term care home that can help move LIPHA forward internally. And us knowledge workers work very closely with the LIPHA champions to assist with the implementation in the long-term care home. And finally, once the long-term care home has been onboarded, we want to provide support and engage LIPHA users in an ongoing and meaningful way. So we do this by engaging our champions in our LIPHA Champion Circle, where we provide educational, technical, and implementation support. And Lisa will be providing more details about that shortly. And if we progress to the next slide, this provides a visual about how to actually get involved in LIPHA. So on the left-hand side, this is the LIPHA webpage that is accessible through the CLRI website. And there's a green button that says Get Started Here. And if you click on that, it takes you to the form on the right-hand side where you can actually indicate your interest, fill out a little bit of information. And then once you submit that, as I mentioned, one of the knowledge brokers actually reaches out to you and starts the process for an introductory meeting and potentially becoming onboarded. So we have 2 more polling questions. Stacy, if you don't mind pulling those up. So the first one is, what might be the best approach to engage your long-term care home with LIPHA? So the first option is cold calling or emailing a long-term care educator or administrator, referral to LIPHA from a mutual colleague, so word of mouth. Any sort of webinars or informational sessions such as this one, social media, so potentially CLRI or CADI Twitter pages. And again, if there's any other options that we haven't included on the list, please feel free to enter them in the chat. We'll give it another couple of seconds. All right. So cold calling and emailing and webinar and informational sessions. Great to hear. Thank you so much for your input. And then we have one more question. So the last question is, what might be the biggest challenge to engaging your long-term care home with LIPHA? So the first option would be limited capacity to implement LIPHA. So for example, limited time or lack of devices that your users could potentially use to run LIPHA. Limited personnel. So for example, there could be high staff turnover, lack of staff engagement, not sure about how to implement LIPHA. And if there's other options, again, feel free to enter it into the chat. And I'll give it a couple more seconds. Limited capacity to implement. Very interesting. Thank you all again for your input. And I will hand it off to Lisa to take over the slides.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. So what I will be talking about today is how will long-term care homes be supported? So if you sign up for LIPHA today, what does that mean for you in terms of support from us and our knowledge broker team here? So to assist with the rollout of Alpha in your organization, we are going to be offering support from educational, implementation, and technical experts via the Alpha Champion Circle. We also call this our ACC, so I'll try not to use the acronym very much in my next few slides. Long-term care resource portal, as well as a troubleshooting portal. So what is the Alpha Champion Circle? So the Alpha Champion Circle is a community that brings together implementation leaders and Alpha champions from various organizations, such as your own, to meet regularly, exchange ideas on how to improve Alpha, your experiences, and to share lessons learned with us and each other. It's a safe place for Alpha champions to share concerns, insights, and get support from technology, implementation, and educational content experts, which means us. So you are going to have one knowledge broker, somebody from the Launch 57 team who created the app, as well as an educator there to help troubleshoot any of the issues you may have. Some of the things that we as knowledge brokers will be talking about at these ACCs are things like priority, so which is something that comes from Consolidated Framework for Implementation Research, and how a shared perception of the importance of implementation within an organization is successful, and if staff perceive that implementation is a key organizational priority, then the implementation climate will be strong. So the session format includes all of the stuff that I mentioned a little bit earlier. So what does the schedule look like? So what we have created with the ACC schedule is once a week on Mondays, we're going to host, or once every 2 weeks, my apologies, we will host a kickoff session. So this is for any new long-term care homes who have just signed up, they're about to onboard their staff. They will come to this session and we will provide them with an orientation of Alpha, how to navigate the platform, its features, content, how to submit any technical issues or questions through Spiceworks, which is the ticketing system we are going to be using, how to promote the adoption of Alpha within your organization, and once the onboarding process begins, you will be invited to attend only one kickoff session. So there's just one that we would like you to attend, and after that, we are hosting 2 ACC sessions a week, so one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So the purpose of these sessions is to provide Alpha champions with an opportunity to connect with the Alpha team about any issues or questions and receive the help in whether it's an implementation, education, and technical support or troubleshooting. And in addition, this is the place where you will be able to provide any feedback with your experiences, how your staff are doing, and help with future versions of the platform. Although attendance is not mandatory, you will be invited to attend all ACC sessions to receive support from us and to exchange ideas and share lessons learned. So we are doing 2 sessions a week because we know everybody's schedules are quite varied, and we were hoping that having one in the morning and one in the afternoon will help folks be able to hopefully attend one a week. Another resource that we have created is the Alpha Long-Term Care Resources Portal. So this is a private website for the Alpha Champion Circle leader from each home. Once a champion has been determined from each site, then we will allow them access to this site. And the website is meant for staff, not for the participants, because this is more if you are unable to attend an ACC, you can come here and check out either the meeting minutes or the recorded sessions. There's FAQs, there's information on backfill, which I'll be talking about a little bit later, how to get help with troubleshooting, and also there's going to be something called a KB Corner, a Knowledge Broker Corner, where we will be highlighting different topics of interest in regards to implementation. So if there is any trouble, what we have come up with or what system we are using it's called Spiceworks, and it is a ticketing system where you or your staff, whoever is using the Alpha app, can submit a ticket to let us know about any issues, questions. So you will see these steps. So the first thing is you will just pop your email into the website link that we will provide. Then you will get an email. And afterwards, once you get the email, we just require 4 things from each participant, so which is a summary, so just a quick overview of what happened, also the name of the long-term care home, a description of what occurred, and then they'll choose a category, whether it was a bug, a glitch, or there is a question about some of the content in the app. And if possible, if they could attach a screenshot, that always helps mediate the back and forth. And the 4th step is each person who opens up a test, who opens up a ticket, is able to see the progression of that ticket. So that's step number 4. So here is an example. So here is an error when logging in. This person belongs to ABC Long-Term Care Home. The description is just a little bit more in depth. They clicked a technical issue and they attached a file. And in this slide, again, this is just to show it would be really helpful if there's screenshots attached, just so that we can see exactly what the participants are seeing. So in talking to you folks today, some of the questions would be, if you are interested, what are the next steps in getting involved? So the first thing is to fill out an intake form, and that is through RedCap. I'm going to ask one of my knowledge brokers to just pop the link into the chat box. And afterwards, we will be glad to set up a meeting with you, whether it's myself, Jenna, or Matthew, and we will ask if you need to apply for backfill support. The second thing on the list is to sign an enterprise license agreement that, yes, you're on board, you'd love to use the app. Then you would attend an Alpha Champions Circle kickoff meeting, that one-time meeting. You would register new team members onto the Alpha platform. And just to remind everybody in the audience, there is no limit to how many PSWs or nurses you sign up for this for the platform. You onboard and identify a local lead to get familiar with Alpha. So that's going to be the person who's going to be coming to the weekly Alpha Champion Circle meetings. You're going to join the weekly meetings for ongoing support, and then monitor progress via the analytical dashboard. And finally, we're going to improve care through application of best practices to real-world simulations. So one thing that we wanted to allow some time for, so we've got about 20 minutes, is if there are any questions or things we can clarify for our audience about the app and the pilot project itself. So please feel free to put any of your questions in the chat box.
So I just put a note in the chat just to prompt anyone. You can use the chat or the question sections, as Lisa mentioned. We have one question from Anita. Are the Alpha Champions staff members only?
So is the Alpha Champion staff only, the question?
I'll repeat, sorry. Are the Alpha Champions staff members only?
So for the Alpha Champion Circle, is really anybody that's a lead. So it could be an educator, a staff, but it does need to be somebody within the home. So it can be anyone really on the team, but somebody that's representing the home, just to either present any issues, or if there's any content that they want to discuss, they can just come to those groups and discuss those issues there.
Just give our attendees a moment to type in their questions. In case you haven't been able to check answered questions, we had a question from the audience. Can it be translated into other languages? I'm wondering if one of the presenters would like to answer that.
Yeah, so this is definitely something that would be in the future. This is a one-year pilot project. So just like Jenna mentioned and Matthew mentioned in their slides, there is a hope that down the line in the future, we will also be integrating with LMS systems. This is a one-year project. So unfortunately at this time, it cannot be changed to other languages, but that is definitely something that is doable in the future.
Thank you. Okay, another question from an attendee. Is there any cost involved to join this new app?
So it is free to the sector, so there's no cost. So as many PSWs, because we're really trying to help modernize, as you said, the orientation and training. So it is ministry funded, so it is free for all members and anyone in long-term care.
We had an earlier question that was asking if this is specific to PSWs and nurses.
Absolutely. So because this is a one-year project, pilot project, we are targeting PSWs and nurses, especially those who have been hired within the last 6 months. So if you have older staff members in the sense that they've been with you longer than 6 months, there might be some opportunities to try out the app, but we are, for the purposes of the pilot project, looking for long-term care homes with newer staff of the last 6 months.
Yeah, and just to add to that, there was a lot of, even coming from the government, the ministry, and some of the recommendations through the commission report, we've seen this is a response to COVID-19, and we've seen a great need for PSWs and nurses in the system. So we have over 16,000 new PSWs entering long-term care. So this is a way to support the sector. So that's why one of the reasons we're focusing on those two groups for this one-year pilot project.
One more question then. So can we try the app before we decide to implement it?
Yeah, so if you go onto the website, I believe that was put into the chat, the Alpha LTC recruitment, you can sign up and go through that demo. So just be cognizant that it is limited in terms of the content. There is more content available. So about 8 cases in the demo itself, you're only going to see one case, and then you'll see some elements. And you may not have access to it, but it does give you a taste of what does it entail, what does it look like.
That's great, thank you. I don't have any more questions from the attendees. Oh, I lie, here's one. How much time is needed for staff to complete the learning modules?
So for PSWs, it takes a total of 4 days, and for nurses, it takes a total of 4.5 days.
Just to add to what Jen is saying, that's why we are offering backfill through the project, because we know that that's a significant amount of time that staff will be spending training. So that's why and how the backfill was determined was based on the amount of time and the length that it would take to complete the app from start to finish.
And also best practices is not 4 days straight or 4.5 days straight. We do suggest, like anybody, we don't play video games all day. So just break that up over time, like maybe 2 hours a shift, or you discuss that with your staff and your team and what works for your home.
Here's a question from the attendees. Is it self-paced or must it be completed in that time?
So it is self-paced. but we do suggest to finish it within at least the 3 weeks, just to retain that learning. So you don't want to have too much of a gap in between, because the cases that we do have, they are related and they do build on each other. So it's the same story, and you follow that progression of different residents in this home and in this world, or in the world, the immersive world that we created.
I feel like if there's one message that comes out of today, it's the Ontario CLRI recommends you play video games all day. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions or comments.
So I'll just finish off then, Stacy. So if you folks are wondering, what's the next steps? What do we do? If you're interested, again, please fill out our intake form and one of the knowledge brokers will be in touch with you. We can get your teams registered and ready to use the app this summer. Summer's almost over, but summer and fall. And please help spread the word if you enjoyed the session today, if you thought it was interesting. Please share the webinar in about a week and a half with anybody in the industry that you know who might also benefit from it. And just a reminder that the webinar is being recorded, it's going to be posted, and there will also be a brief evaluation survey that should pop up when the webinar closes. It's a voluntary survey, it's anonymous, and it should take about 3 minutes. And questions can be skipped or the whole survey can be abandoned at any moment. We just want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon, for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day. And I'm just going to leave up the next slide before the survey with the contact information for the knowledge brokers. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Lisa, Jenna, and Matthew. Really appreciate learning more about this and how we can contact you. As Lisa mentioned, this recording will be available on the Ontario CLRI website, and the information to contact any of the 3 presenters is up on the screen. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.